It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth, financial literacy educator and speaker, entrepreneur, and chairman of the board of a Bank Information. Take charge of your financial future with your personal bank. Now here's Ference Toth.
Welcome to the Your Personal Bank Show. Today I'm going to offer 3 solutions to the number one question I'm getting from people when I'm talking to them. And the answer to the question I'm getting is, where can I put money? Where can I invest where I can get a relatively decent rate of return and be at least relatively certain that I'm not going to lose? And that's a tough question, because I don't think I need to tell you or anybody else that, our economy has changed. Inflation is at all-time records. The stock market has been in downward move since the beginning of the year. Cryptocurrency is not living up to its hype that it's been going down also. It's been losing a lot. Precious metals aren't going anywhere. I've talked about that in previous shows. A lot of people think, well, should I put my money in precious metals? And well, based on activity so far, the answer is no. The primary reason is most likely because about 80% of the world's gold supply, for example, is controlled by the world's central banks. And it's no secret they manipulate the price. So people ask me, should I invest in precious metals? My answer is, well, if you trust the central banks, yes. If not, no. So it's like, where do you go? And a lot of people are concerned about real estate, especially the increasing interest rates environment we're in. And real estate has gone up so fast over the past year, several years really, but particularly the past year. A lot of people are predicting a correction in that area too. So it's like, where do you put your money? Where do you go that you can invest your money and get some decent returns with some relative safety? And I'm gonna offer 3 solutions. So I'm gonna really encourage you to stay tuned to this show, because this is gonna be very, very significant, very powerful financially for a lot of people. If you want to thrive through this economic storm that we are in, you want to stay tuned. So the first, if you've been listening to the show, you already know the answer, and it happens to be the personal bank concept. And what I mean by that is by funding high cash value policies. These are highly interest rate sensitive, folks. So you want something that's going to have a higher rate of return. Right now they're like 5.75 with guarantees and tax free. That ain't half bad. I can show you how to get it to double digit in a matter of a few years, just so you know, through safely leveraging bank money. But it is a very, very good solution and a very good place to put your money right now. And frankly, the returns are only going to increase as the interest rates go forward as we increase. So your personal bank is a key area to put money in right now to thrive through this economic situation we're dealing with probably for the next several years, at least the next, I'm going to say next couple of years. Even our Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, is saying that. So is Jerome Powell, head of the Federal Reserve. We're going to have higher than normal inflation. They're stating now for the next 2 or 3 years. Okay, so that's no secret. It's not transitory, just like I said back in May of 2021, I started saying that. That was a lie, okay? I don't believe these people are that stupid. That's another whole point. What I'm getting at is, where do you put your money? Number one, your personal bank is something you really, really should look into. Again, it's guaranteed, it's safe, it has, like I said, it has guarantees, you got consistency, you're interest rate sensitive. 5.75 is the current rate, and we fully expect those to go up in the future with the rising interest rate environment. Also, you can safely leverage bank money to leverage these things using other people's monies, banks' monies, to where you can get 8 and 10% returns in a matter of the next even year or 2 or 3, depending on your situation and what the rates are doing. But you can get yourself into double-digit returns in the next few years with safety, with guarantees, tax-free, all of it. If you want to know how that works, I'm not going to spend a lot of time today on explaining it, because I've done it so many times previously. So I'm going to really encourage you to go to yourpersonalbank.com and look at any of the previously recorded shows where you see topics on each of the shows. And there's many, many of them where I talk about how your personal bank works, how you can safely leverage bank money to get double-digit returns. There's multiple shows I've shared this idea with. So that's number one. That's the first place. But, there's some other options that most people are not familiar with, and sadly, most people in the financial world have not heard them sharing. But it's called I bonds. This is number two. An I bond is a inflation bond that's issued by the U.S. Treasury. So this is a U.S. government bond. It's backed by the U.S. government, which is currently still considered a very, very safe option. Okay. And what's interesting about I bonds, we're going to talk about this a little further, is you can purchase them directly by going to treasurydirect.gov. Again, it's treasurydirect.gov. And I'm looking at their website right now. There's no fees or anything to do this. That's why I think a lot of people are not talking about it. But you can buy it directly from the U.S. government. It's a government bond. Like I said, there's a banner right at the top in green that says you can purchase I bonds at the current rate, which happens to be 9.62% through October of 2022. Folks, you can purchase an I bond right now through October and get the current rate, and that rate will pay you for the following 6 months after you purchase it, and the current rate is 9.6%. Now, that's very interesting, and the reason why it's so high, of course, it is an inflation bond, an I bond. So the rate will be adjusted every 6 months. You can sell it at any time you want, but as long as inflation is going to run higher than normal, this is a good place with some safety, right, to put your money and get some returns. Now, there's some limits to it. You can only purchase $10,000 per person, or I should say per family member. So if you have children or whatever, you can purchase it for them. You can also gift it. Can be something you can purchase and gift to somebody else. So a family of four can do 40,000, for example. So it may make a difference for some people. Even if you've got more and you want to put something somewhere, this could be an option. Now, and so the other thing I would say, though, is in addition to just going out and buying the I bond, frankly, you have a choice. Like I state all the time on this show, is when you look at an investment, any type of investment, you can either take some money and invest in that, get that return on the investment, whatever it is. In this case, it's a I bond through the Treasury Department at 9.6% rate of return. Or you can put the money in a personal bank policy, get this dividend, 5.75 currently, access through a bank line of credit. They're currently charging 3 to 4% rates. Again, this is prime minus prime or prime minus. So this is the cheapest rates you're going to find anywhere to purchase or borrow money from. But if you're making 5.75, for example, and say getting charged 3.5, you're keeping the difference, aren't you? You can take that money and purchase the I bond, for example. So if you're getting, say, 2% positive arbitrage, right, the difference of how much you're earning in your your dividends you're earning versus what you're getting charged through the bank is the personal bank concept. So let's say that positive arbitrage happens to be 2%, and you purchase an I bond, and the I bond returns right now for the next 6 months are 9.6%. Well, now your rate of return on that money is 11.6% with guarantees backed either by the U.S. government or insurance agency contract, or insurance company contract. So again, very safe places to put your money and get double-digit returns right now, at least on some money. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. Like I said, the I bonds could be an option for people to put it into the personal bank. And like I said, a family of four could easily do 40,000, for example, right now, and get 12% rate of return. The combination of the I bond paying 9.6 plus the positive arbitrage earning from the personal bank, 2 or 3%. I don't know about you folks, but that's pretty darn good. By the way, just so you know, you can purchase up to 5,000 more per person per year. By the way, this is per year. So you could do, if you're a family of four, you could do 40,000 this year in I bonds, and then start next year, do 40,000 more. And frankly, unless something significant changes and say energy policy or the government significantly spending less money, all right, inflation is going to be higher than average next year, most likely. Of course, we'll see. You can wait and see what happens, of course. But the I bond should be something that would be a good place to put some money to get some returns for the next, I don't know, couple of 3 years, maybe, give or take, maybe longer. We'll see. But you can also, you hold on to it for 6 months, and if the rates drop, you can sell it. All right. So it's not like you're committing for a super long term period of time, 6 months, basically, with the I bonds. And again, by combining that with the personal bank concept to get the positive arbitrage, you're now in double digit returns. So, like I said, solid, it's going to be 11-12% range of returns on your money. So there's a place that can be done. There's no fees or anything to do an I bond or anything like that. Okay. So again, go to treasurydirect.gov and check it out with I bonds. And again, I would strongly encourage you to combine that with a personal bank policy to get some tax-free benefits and increase your rate of return. And there's other benefits to it also. Now, the last thing I want to touch on that before we run out of time in this segment is, so I've heard this already. Some people are not a big fan of the U.S. government. Hey, man, you're preaching to the choir here. I mean, if you listen to this show any period of time whatsoever, I am not a fan of the U.S. government, especially right now in the way the current administration has been operating. Okay, really not been a fan for the last several decades, to be fair, and I've stated that too. From a fiscal standpoint, financially, I've not been happy with how our government has been handling its financial matters. It has not been fiscally responsible for decades. Okay, and that's true. It doesn't seem to matter who's been in charge. House, Senate, the presidency, whatever, right? Either party. So my point is it true that the U.S. government, the financial position and the financial strength of the government is less today than it was, say, 10 years ago or even 2 years ago? And no question, there's no argument there whatsoever. But the other side of it is, here's the thing, and I know things are getting a little rough out there, and people are getting. In fact, I saw this poll recently. That's what kind of drove me to talk about this. Plus, I'm getting asked this by my clients and prospects every day. Is Americans are losing hope, and they're deeply, deeply pessimistic about the economy. And every time, American dream, all of it. And every time you go to the grocery store or the gas station, you're reminded, of course. The thing is, if the U.S. government goes down, if the bond goes down, folks, everything else is gone also. So your money's not worth anything anyway. So if you're going to invest it somewhere and try to get some kind of return on it, you might as well put it here. And one of the safest tools you can invest in, a government bond, and get 9.6% and put it with a personal bank and now bump that to 11 or 12. Contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or toll free 866-268-4422 for more information.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show, and today I'm answering the number one question that I've been getting on a regular basis now, consistently, frankly, daily. I'm hearing this multiple times a day, is where is a place, where can I invest my money where I can realize a decent rate of return and a reasonable expectation that it's not going to lose value. I talked about this in the first segment, I should say. With the economy and interest rates and inflation, my gosh, it's a tough thing. And in the first segment, I shared 2 ways. I'm going to share a third here, so I'm going to encourage you to really stay tuned. Some really good places where you can create a double-digit return, at least on some of your money, and at least 5.75 or better using the personal bank concept. If you just put it in there to earn dividends, right now you can get a 5.75 dividend with guarantees, insured, tax-free, okay, all of that. And rates are going up as we go forward because interest rates are climbing. So all the insurance companies are telling us the same thing. And you can then access those funds from a bank line of credit. The lines right now are still in the 3 to 4% range, depending on the amounts we're talking about. Again, the cheapest place to borrow money at. And you can take those funds and purchase an I-bond through treasurydirect.gov. That is paying currently 9.6%. It's a government bond. It's an inflation bond. And And so your return between the U.S. government, which is a U.S. government bond, considered one of the safest places to invest, and the positive arbitrage on your personal bank policy, you're looking at solid, double digits now. Probably more like 11-12% return on your money. There are limits. You can only purchase $10,000 per person per year of an I bond. Now, if you have a family and children, you can purchase for them. You can do it as gifting also. You can do another $5,000 if it's a return on your tax return. So you can do potentially up to $15,000 per person, but you have to use a refund of your tax return monies to get the other five. Now, if you're getting $5,000 back from the government or more, I'm going to say to you, most likely, I would encourage you to look at the way you're taking deductions and things. You're having too much held out, and you might want to adjust that so you're not giving so much to the government. Let them hang on to it for about a year before you get it back. But if you do have a return, if you do have a refund, a tax refund, I strongly encourage you to take that in the form of an I bond up to $5,000 rather than just cash, because you might as well get the 9.6% return, which is locked in it's for 6 months at a time, and they reset the rates. And folks, I don't think in 6 months from now we're going to see much different of a rate. It's probably going to be, as long as inflation is staying higher than normal, this is going to be a good place to have some money. And even the Treasury Department and government and economists are all saying we're looking at high inflation for the next 3 years. Okay. And I've said this since May of 2021. You can go back to yourpersonalbank.com, previously recorded shows, when I started talking about inflation. And until they change energy policy and stop spending so much money, we're going to see higher than average inflation. Okay. So that's just the facts. Anyway, so those are the first two, like I said, personal bank concept to get a good, decent return on your money safely with some guarantees. Make sure it's going to be there and not lose. And then you can get an I bond for $10,000 per person in your family per year and get a 9.6% return now for the next 6 months at least. And they set that each 6-month period. This 9.6% rate is good through October 2022, and they'll set the rate in October. And if it drops, you can sell it. You know what I mean, and still get a decent return. What I find interesting, and then I'll get to the third option in a minute here. What I find interesting is we have this consumer price index coming out saying, lately it's been around 8% or so, right? Last several months. And the I bond, the Treasury Department themselves is saying 9.6% is the rate we're paying on an inflation bond. And the inflation bond is a combination of a base interest rate plus inflation. Well, the base interest rate on the I bond right now is 0. The inflation rate is 9.62. In other words, the U.S. Treasury is telling us inflation is 9.62% right now. So it's not the CPI. I've been saying this for a while. Inflation is higher than the CPI because the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, does not include food and fuel, which are two of the largest purchases that average Americans spend, right, on a regular basis. Now, I would argue it's higher than 9.6%, but gives you an idea. Even the U.S. government is saying, the Treasury Department is saying 9.6. Okay, that is really, really high inflation, and that's going to really cause some real economic turmoil going forward. Which is also another reason why, in addition to client and prospect questions asking me, what can I do? Where can I invest my money? This poll I saw recently where it says Americans are deeply pessimistic about the economy. This is according to the Wall Street Journal poll recently. It says about 83% of respondents said the economy is poor or not so good. And they're not, and something like 35% are not satisfied with their financial situation, which is the highest level of dissatisfaction since 1972. Now, folks, that was the first oil embargo, okay, and then inflation rates blew up huge in the late 70s with the second oil embargo and high inflation in the Carter years, okay, late 70s. So more people are pessimistic than at any time since that time. That's amazing. I've also seen some studies, statistics showing that about 70% of Americans are now literally living paycheck to paycheck. And it's because of the higher cost of food and fuel and the inflation. And this is just not good. Okay. And the problem is there doesn't seem to be any end in sight. In fact, this is continuing going on because there is a war. There's a war on energy, and the government is still spending far, far too much money. So, until two things need to change to reduce, because that's the other question I get. And then I guess we're going to go to the next segment. I'll tell you the third option. The two things that need to change are really actually quite straightforward and quite simple. Number one, the government has to stop spending so much money. The government is creating the inflation. It's the one creating the money, printing the money, and printing far, far too much of it. You know, private industry, private business, and individuals we don't have the capability of creating inflation because we can't create extra dollars. Only the government can do that. So the spending of the government money is the inflation being caused by government spending too much money is squarely on the government. And, you know, these last 2 years have been unprecedented historical levels of spending. And now we're paying the price. It's just that simple. The second big thing, cause, is energy, the lack of energy, and having a reduction of production. Reducing the production of energy causes the prices of everything to increase because just about everything we purchase is transported and for the most part by diesel fuel, whether it's a ship, a train, a truck, or a tractor. It's shipped and by diesel fuel. So fuel costs increase the cost. Even if the item doesn't cost more, the cost of transporting it does. So it causes inflation across the board. If you want more information on how to navigate and thrive in this economic situation, call me toll-free 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. All right, I'm answering the number one question I've been getting lately, and that is, where can I invest my money with a reasonable return and a reasonable expectation I'm not going to lose? And I've shared the first two, which is Your Personal Bank concept, high cash value policies, get dividends, and you can also safely leverage bank money. The dividend right now, like 5.75, with guarantees, tax-free, okay, consistent, and those rates are likely going up as interest rates go up with them. They're highly interest rate sensitive. So we're on the upswing on those types of things. You can also safely leverage bank money. I can show you how to do that and get your returns up to 10% plus in a matter of just a few years, if at least not a portion, a majority of your funds, okay? Safely, again, without any loss, without tax, all of that. If you want to learn how to do that, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422. If you want to employ that or you want to do some more, another good option is I-bonds. You can go to treasurydirect.gov and buy an I-bond. You can purchase up to $10,000 per person per year in your family. It also can be used for gifting. The rate of return right now for the next 6 months is 9.62%. It's backed by the U.S. government, considered a very, very safe option, okay? If you use a personal bank in combination with a I-bond, you can see your returns bump up to 10, 11, 12% right out the gate because you get the positive arbitrage with the personal bank. Again, I share this all the time. You can either purchase the I-bond to get the 9.6% return, which is good for the next 6 months, and then they set the rate each 6 months, so you'll know what it'll be down the road in advance, and you can sell it at any time. My point is you can take some money and get the 9.6% with the I-bond through treasurydirect.gov, or you can put it in a policy, get 5.75 dividends, access the funds through a bank line of credit, get charged between 3 and 4% currently, so you're picking up a couple percent or so of positive arbitrage, and buy the I-bond. So now you get 9.6 plus 2 or 3 more. Gosh, you're 11, 12%, aren't you? Return on your monies. I understand that it's limits. You get 10,000 per person per year with the I bonds. I get that. By the way, I get nothing for this. This is purely a public service. I just want people to understand and know that there are options out there, places you can put money. So if you are a family of 4, you can put 40 grand a year into this, the I bonds, okay? And again, I'd strongly encourage you to combine it with your personal bank to get that to double digits right out the gate, okay? Now the third option that I find very interesting, again, I'm going to caveat this. I cannot formally endorse this. Do your own due diligence, but I'm going to encourage you to do so. In fact, in the next show, I'm going to have our guest explain how all this works. Lane is going to do that for us, so I'm going to encourage you to stay tuned to the next Your Personal Bank show. But it is investing with private student loans. In other words, this company purchases student loans. Do student loans that are in default or in distress. Distressed private student loans, they renegotiate, and then that's how they make their money. And you invest in this, so they're able to purchase these. And the rates of return, I'll let Lane share this more, depending on how much and time frames, somewhere between 7 and 10% annually. And they're backed by student loan debt. Now, it's private student loan debt, so this is a key thing about it. This is why I think it's interesting. Even if Biden forgives all student loans, it will only be the public ones. He cannot forgive private student loans. Those are private contract between the borrower and the lender. The public ones he can't. Well, who knows? We'll see what he does. There's a lot of argument about that, whether he even has the constitutional authority to do that. But if he does, it will still not affect the private student loans. So I find this a very interesting option. Again, I strongly recommend you do your own due diligence, make your own decisions on this. I am not formally endorsing this. I am just opening up options for people to look into further. I'm going to bring Lane, one of the senior VPs, on how this all works and let him explain it. And I'll give you his contact info so you can reach out to them and see if this is something you want to consider. But I just want you to understand there are options out there with some relative safety, with some guarantee. Well, let's put it this way: they're backed by assets like student loan debt, which cannot be bankrupted. That's what gives us a sense, some safety, so to speak. And look into this as another option outside of, say, the stock market or real estate market or cryptocurrencies or precious metals, which are all have their own problems or struggling or concerns. Okay, so I just want to make that very, very clear. So if you want to learn how to thrive through this economic storm that we're in the middle of, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or toll free 866-268-4422. And I'll show you how to combine your personal bank and say I bonds and get you a double-digit return on your money, at least on some of it, at least $10,000 a year per person in your family. Stay tuned to the next segment. We're going to finish up with some other thoughts. So don't miss it. This will be good.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. And if you've been listening, you know I'm answering the number one question that I've been receiving for the last several months even, is where can I invest my money where I can get a decent rate of return and have some relative safety in terms I don't want to keep losing money. A lot of people in the stock market are feeling the heat, feeling the pain. Cryptocurrencies, the same thing. Precious metals have not been performing. A lot of people are concerned about real estate. A lot of experts are talking about that's the next shoe to drop, so to speak, for a correction. This high inflation is not good for our economy. But there are a few things out there that shine in this kind of thing, and I've shared this for quite some time, and that's inflation, or I should say interest rate sensitive assets. Your personal bank is one of those. You can invest, put money into a policy to earn dividends, 575 currently, with guarantees, and tax-free, income tax-free. And if you just leave it there, that's fine. You can do that. but it gives you a safe place to park your money and let it grow through this turbulent time. I also mentioned you can safely leverage bank money, and we can get that rate of return for you up around 10% plus in the matter of just a few years, as little as 2 3 years, so maybe a little more. For different depends on how much we're talking about and what your how you how you fund it, so to speak. But we can definitely get you to that double digit rate of return in a few years with safety, with guarantees, income tax free. Another solution, and what you can take it, you can take advantage of the personal bank, and I would encourage you to do so because you can get that positive arbitrage leverage, and you can get the bank leverage and still take advantage of I bonds. Again, I get nothing for this. There's no benefit to me. It's a U.S. government bond, an inflation bond. Go to treasurydirect.gov. They'll tell you all about it. You can purchase $10,000 per person per year in your family. So a family of four could do $40,000 a year, for example. And the current rate is 9.6%. So if you use your personal bank, get a couple of percent positive arbitrage, and use that money to purchase an I bond, you're now at 11.6% return on your money. You see what I'm saying? So you can get double digit returns at least on some of your money safely, with safety now. A government bond, I get it. It's based on the U.S. government, which is still considered one of the safest investments out there. Our government financially is not as strong as it used to be. I'm not a big fan myself, but let's be real. If the U.S. government bonds fail, everything else has gone down the tubes already too. So it doesn't really matter at that point. I mean, currency won't be worth what it is. Just will not, no matter where the money is. Okay, so there's some pragmatism here. You got to be pragmatic, and I'm no fan of our government either. But if you can get 9.6% on some money with the government backing, that's hard to pass up, in my opinion. If you're looking for a place to safely put some money and get a return these days in this high inflation environment. And that's good for 6 months. You can keep it, renew it, you can sell it anytime you want until the inflation rates drop. So however long this high inflation is going to last, at least you can get a good return on some of that money. Like I said, using the personal bank with the I bond, you can get yourself double digit returns. That's really, really nice, especially today, especially the fact it has guarantees and safety. The third option I shared in the last segment was investing in private student loan debt. Now, again, I want to caveat this. I'm not formally endorsing this. I don't get any benefit from this. This is just something that you might want to consider. I'm going to have one of the key people on that on the next show. So stay tuned to the next Your Personal Bank show. And Lane will share all the details of it. And I'll encourage you to contact them and do your due diligence. It's on them. It's not about me. I'm trying to be helpful here because the options that exist out there to get a good return on your money with some safety, folks, is very limited. This is a really, really tough economic environment. I think everybody understands that, and we are in almost uncharted territory in many respects. And what I mean by that is what's going to change, how long is this going to last, and what's going to change it, which are probably the next two questions I get. It's kind of what I want to finish up this show with today is the two causes. There's two primary causes to high inflation in the economy we're in. Number one is too much government spending. What people need to understand, and people are gaining that understanding more and more, so it's encouraging, is there's only one entity that can create inflation. Business cannot do it. Individuals cannot do it. Only governments can create inflation. So there's only one person to look at, one entity to look at, one place to blame. That's government. And how government does it is by inflating the amount of money that's in circulation. Printing too many dollars creates inflation, and only the U.S. government has the ability to print U.S. dollars. So it's only their fault. They've been doing that because they've been spending too much. Now, this isn't a new phenomenon. This has been going on for decades. It got accelerated, kept increasing acceleration, and went to unprecedented highs in the last couple of years since the COVID shutdowns. And the Biden administration and all the things with the spent more money than any other administration in history. And we are now paying the price. There's too much money in the system. Inflation will be high until our government starts spending less. It needs to go on a diet, it needs to go on a budget. Just like any business or household, when you are spending too much money, it's eventually unsustainable. You have to make adjustments. Our US government needs to make adjustments, significant ones, in reduction of expenses. They have to spend less. And we as voters are the only ones, it looks like, they're going to have to force them. We need to vote for fiscally responsible representatives to force our government to get off of this gravy train and just keep spending, or our money will not be worth anything eventually. That is absolutely true. We have to stop the spending, okay? It's that simple. The government has to cut back. So the sooner, the better. The longer it keeps kicking down the can down the road, the longer this will drag on and the worse it will get. Now, the second cause of inflation is energy shortage of energy production. When you reduce production, you increase the cost of energy. If you reduce the amount of anything and increase the cost of anything, that's basic economics 101. Biden just, in the first day of his office, didn't just shut down the Keystone Pipeline. He shut down 10 pipelines, folks. That's what the media has not shared. It's not common knowledge. 10 pipelines, folks. That's like millions of barrels of oil a day that would still be flowing if those weren't shut down. The second major thing the Biden administration did was shut down drilling on all federal lands for over a year. And then when they find, which I don't believe any administration in history has ever done that in the age of oil, ever since oil was, I don't think it's ever happened. When you do not allow energy companies to produce energy, oil, natural gas, whatever, you're going to reduce the supply. When they finally, by court order, were forced to open some leases, they made the costs and regulations so onerous that nobody wanted to lease the lands. And the other argument is they say there's thousands of leases that were issued previously that oil companies or energy companies are not using or not tapping. That's because they've increased the cost and time of regulations. They've basically priced it out. It's too expensive. I mean, think about this. Businesses of any kind, energy companies or any other kind of company, really their main focus is they want to make a profit. Energy commodities, gas and oil and natural gas, diesel and all those things are at near or at all-time highs. They could make a tremendous profit if they were just able to have some supply and sell it. So that tells you something. If the costs to produce it are even higher than that, it's not economically feasible. And there's only one entity, again, that's getting in the way of that, and that is the current Biden administration. When that changes, oil production will increase, oil and the price of oil and natural gas will reduce, and inflation will reduce with it. Until they change energy policy, we will have higher than normal inflation. But it even goes beyond that on the war on energy. The Biden administration has also attacked the natural gas pipeline projects. They have shut down many of those. And what's ironic about that is natural gas is one of the cleanest sources of energy out there. Outside of nuclear, it's about the cleanest one out there. It is cleaner than, in many ways, than solar or wind. Wind kills birds, stuff like that. We know that. Wind is unreliable because it's not always windy. And solar, the batteries to create solar are hugely expensive and are very economically damaging to the environment. In fact, a battery shortage right now, shortage of materials for batteries, is hampering the U.S. switch to wind and solar. They can't create enough batteries because they can't produce enough of the materials to create the batteries. And another little big secret out there, not so big a secret, is that China controls something like 85% of the rare earth metals in the world, many of them like lithium, that are needed to produce the batteries. So the point is, a electric car is not, and I repeat, is not more green than a gas-powered vehicle today. Because when you add up the energy cost, the environmental cost of creating the vehicle, whether it's the electric vehicle or the gas vehicle, and then the lifetime use of that vehicle, of the batteries, and how much emissions it puts out, folks, the facts, the science is simple. The science is the fossil fuel, the gas-powered car is more environmentally friendly for the lifetime of its use. The second thing you need to understand is a lot of people cannot afford, I keep saying just buy an electric car, electric vehicle. And the reality is, especially with this inflation, there's just a lot of people can't afford it. It's just not in the budget. They're just trying to get by. Something like 70% of Americans right now are living paycheck to paycheck. I happen to be fortunate that if I chose, I could purchase a Tesla. Okay? I do not want one. Because one, I know, because I've thought this through, I've seen the numbers, I've studied, I've done the research. It's less environmentally friendly than a gas-powered vehicle. Newer gas-powered vehicles are incredibly, and diesel too, by the way, are incredibly efficient and are incredibly green friendly. By the folks, they are. It's a fact. The cost of, through building them and the lifetime of the vehicle. The second thing is there's so many restrictions in terms of how far you can go, how long it takes to charge, can you find charging stations, and over half, I've seen 60 to 70% of electric charging stations in the United States are fueled by diesel fuel generators. In other words, you pull up to a charging station, and behind the wall is a diesel generator generating the electricity. How is that green? Help me understand that. Also, we have an electricity shortage already. They are predicting rolling blackouts through about 2/3 of the United States this summer because we don't have enough electricity. If we did a massive move to electric vehicles, that'll only burden the system even further. And let me show you the proof, because again, I think through this stuff, folks. Over the last decade, both in California and Germany, two places that have moved heavily towards electric vehicles, the cost of electricity has increased 5-fold over the past decade. In other words, as more people move to electric vehicles, the cost of electricity will go up. So will it be cheaper? Will it be more cost effective throughout the lifetime of that vehicle? Probably not. I think not. If you want more straight talk, help you get through this economic crisis that we're in, this hurricane, contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-268-4422. And yes, if you contact me, you will get to talk to me. I look forward to meeting you.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guest on this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Products and riders may have limitations and may not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be charges when replacing coverage. Compare when considering a replacement. Dividend rates and baseline of credit rates may change. Contact yourpersonalbank.com for current rates.